Yeah, appreciate it. Can you guys hear me well? Does it work?
This won't amplify anything.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This is just a recording to the camera.
Oh, okay. Got it. I'm like, this is working.
It helps us catalog this
great.
groundbreaking discussion we're about to have with our peers here. So, Ricky, tell us a little bit about just the brief summary of yourself, where you came from.
So Ricky Joshi grew up in Columbus, Ohio, the most boring place on earth. Although it's gotten better, I swear to God, it's a nicer place to visit in the summer. Do not go in the winter at all, ever. So grew up in Columbus, Ohio. Went off to the Northeast for college and grad school. But you know what? The fun story is, to be totally honest, I've been in like almost every city in America in my life. I mean, I interned in Atlanta for Turner Broadcasting. I was in San Francisco. I was in LA at UCLA Film School for a little while. I mean, if there's something out there, I think I've probably been there. So pretty well versed in the universality of the United States, basically, in my growing up culture.
And so when you first got your head turned to business, was it inevitable to go into mattresses, or was there something else first that got you that spark?
It was about when I was like 5 years old. I was like, one day I'm going to be a mattress baron.
Baron, I like it.
Yeah. No, I honestly, I just the hustler that all of us have, right? So I was that kid selling lemonade. I mean, give me some competitive goal, and I would try to achieve it. So so the guy who sold the most newspapers and magazines. I think it was like a magazine contest, and I think my goal was to get like a pizza party or something. And I think I sold like $5,000 or $6,000 of magazines for like a pizza party.
What were the magazines?
Anything. You had to go door to door and just do it as like in like 4th or 5th grade. And but for some reason, just had that motivation. So always been sort of a hustler, creative, and all of those things. So it's just kind of being an entrepreneur is very natural for me. My dad wanted me to be a doctor. I realized I hate medicine. Just basically hate hospitals, to be honest. Yeah. That wasn't going to work out, so just kind of kept down the journey.
Starting in magazines is a good start. I think that's where Richard Branson started out, with Student Magazine. So
this is like 4 years old, though.
I think he was like he was maybe like 17. I don't know.
Yeah.
Student Magazine. So you started
much more
off
professional.
Well. So you've had the hustle. You knew you wanted to solve problems from a young age. But when was was that the first business that took off for you?
No. That was like a thing I did.
No, I mean the mattress business.
Oh, yeah.
No, just blew up from there.
Yeah. No, honestly, it's kind of funny. Interestingly, my parents were not that excited about me being in a fraternity in college, and they kind of had me on a budget. So I'm like, okay, we have a problem here, budget. So how am I going to solve this? So there was a Salvation Army auction that was about an hour and a half away. Also, very coincidentally, I love cars, and not like fancy cars, like Ferrari, okay, impressed me a little bit. Like I like 1987, Chrysler LeBarons, I like weird stuff. And and it was a great fit. I'm like, okay, I have an arbitrage opportunity. All the guys in Boston, so I was at Dartmouth in New Hampshire. All the guys in Boston, they want Hondas and Toyotas. Everyone at Dartmouth wants, it's cold, it's snowy. They want a Subaru and an Audi. Arbitrage opportunity immediately. We bought every single Subaru and Audi and a Isuzu 4-wheel drive we could find, and resold them to students. All of a sudden, I'm making the big bucks. $1,500 a month and $1,700.
Calm down.
Yeah. And but I think that was really, a nice foray into entrepreneurship in college, but also doing a bunch of other things. The student government, I helped create the library to be 24 hours because it wasn't altruistic. I genuinely hated when the library shut down at 11. I'm like, this is absolute BS. This is right when I'm starting to rock and roll. So, just a problem solver. I think that's just what we see as entrepreneurs, right? We always want to solve problems. We see something. The problem with entrepreneurs sometimes, though, is oftentimes there's too many things to solve, and it's almost filtering, right? You're like, oh my God, I want to go and make a chicken restaurant because I think that this restaurant, there's an opportunity for chicken restaurants, and filtering was it. But
was your head turned more to direct to consumer though from that? Age?
So direct to consumer really started. So I was getting my MBA. Really actually worked for a media company. Amazing job, amazing opportunity. I remember one day, basically, my boss comes to me and she says, you know what, in 20 years, I think you can be the president of this company. Thinking that would inspire me. I'm like, that sounds scary as hell. I have to wait 20 years to be my own boss? Hell no. So I chose a path, which was working for a big advertising conglomerate in a much more entrepreneurial role. We invested in Facebook. I sourced that deal. This is 2006. Did a bunch of stuff. And it was an amazing kind of part of my life. I got to be an entrepreneur. The problem with being an entrepreneur is you get like a nice pat on the back and a good thumbs up, and that's the end of the story. And I realized pretty quickly that like I wasn't necessarily destined to be working for a massive conglomerate or corporation. My goal is not to be CEO of a big company that someone else started. So left, created my own ad agency. And hustled, and so it was basically an internet marketing agency working on behalf of clients. And then I had another moment where I'm like, I don't like working for other people. My clients are now my boss, and I could tell.
Was that drop shipping or anything like that, or was that just like internet marketing?
It was internet marketing, Google AdWords, SEM, SEO, all of those core things, social media. So we were kind of an outsourced SEM agency, which is an amazing business, but it's client services, and that just wasn't something that I personally wanted to do. Particularly after a couple, the worst thing about being in the client services business, which I hope that no one's in the client services business in internet marketing, but the one thing that's the worst is your smallest clients are probably your most annoying clients. So I'm actually, a lot of like epiphany moments happen in life, right? So I'm sitting here at a wedding, my good friend's getting married. I'm gonna bike ride in Maui, and Team USA Olympic team, man, 2010 Winter Olympics, this woman would not get off my case over Apollo Owanos or whatever his name was. He had like a little, we had some sort of ad that I guess was like slightly off color. And I'm like, we can just turn off the ad. She's like, you got to fix the ad. I'm like, I'm about to be a groomsman at a wedding. I just like, there's other stuff. You can talk to my people. She's like, no, I want to talk to you. I'm like, I'm going to go on, like literally, like I'm going to be like on stage in like less than 7 minutes. Like, you better call me back in 20. I'm like, I got to get out of this. So basically I realized I wanted to start my own product. It wasn't easy. Launched 3 or 4 things along the way within the confines of the agency that I had started. But eventually, one of them was Saatva. There's no way I had any idea Saatva would become what it became. I literally thought it was, one. I actually thought I'd have like 3 or 4 of these things, maybe 5 of these things. Anyway.
Because that was probably what e-commerce was like. Because I was coming through the same epiphany as you. I was doing web design for people. And I decided I don't want to be doing this client work anymore. I wanted to build e-commerce sites because that's what I was building. So you thought you just have to own lots of e-commerce sites to make money, but you realized, no, this one is the one.
There's like back in the early days, particularly in Saatva, I think the world's changed slightly, but we were really, really hacky. I mean, we were just creative at every level. So we looked at every internet search result for people looking up best mattress and saw that there were a bunch of sites that were up there. At that point, they weren't retailers. Google algorithms change all the time. At that moment in time, it was just a lot of kind of forum sites. So we'd go and I approached the forums directly and said, hey, can I be your lead sponsor? They're like, sure, Ricky, $110 a click. Now a mattress click costs $11.86. So at $110 a click, and I'm like, oh my God, this thing's actually a real business. Like, I don't have to do the 25 other things that I was thinking I had to do. But yeah, that was kind of the inception. And, again, I never, from the bottom of my heart, had any idea that Saatva would become, a $500 million company. But it did it, and we kind of kept moving along the way.
And there's been a lot of change, like you say, like when cost per click was more affordable than it was. So, we've talked a little bit on the phone before this. We prepped, believe it or not. And we talked a little bit about some of those changes that are happening with you guys now, like bringing some more of the manufacturing into the United States and warehousing. So give us a little idea of where you said it started with obviously, cheap cost per click. Were you kind of like reselling other people's products then, and then you started manufacturing? Give us a little bit of an idea of that life cycle to where we are now. We can start talking about some of the sexy stuff you're doing now.
Yeah, so basically we've always been our own brand. So we've never resold product. I think that's been from day one. And I think that's, honestly, we were at the forefront of the direct-to-consumer revolution. We launched in 2010. 2011, I was, telling Brett over there, I was living in my mom and dad's house. So it's this true story, just before I moved to Austin, like grinding, right? Like doing everything you can possibly do, setting up every account, setting up the Facebook accounts, doing all that homework that you have to do, that you still have to do today if you're creating a brand, making sure you have reviews. I mean, nothing's changed in that regard. It's not like, people talk a lot about how easy it is to create a direct consumer business. true. Shopify, you don't have to go and use CS Cart like we did. There's a million things that are so much easier, but the nuts and bolts are still the same, right? You have to get reviews. There's still a lot of hard work involved if you want to get something off the ground, and we did that. So we launched Saatva in 2011. And just went after those early blogs and did a lot of those early things. And then we started to see traction, and wow, now we can invest in AdWords. Then we became really smart at AdWords. So over time, I was invited to CMO conferences with, Google, with the CMO Fanatics. Like it was an amazing kind of progress over the course of the organization. And at some point you realize that you created a relatively large brand, and, performance marketing, which is like my DNA, and I'll like take it, and that's what I stand by. But at the end of the day, you have to do some other stuff, which has become more of a large company, right? So we've done those things you're talking about. So we acquired our manufacturing. By the way, those guys, I had to convince them to work with me back in the day. We ended up acquiring them.
That's brilliant. That feels good, doesn't it?
It's like I've seen like movies like that. Like the girl didn't let you have a date, and all of a sudden like she wants you to go to prom with her or whatever. But
or buying the car or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's that story. So it's all flipped.
So you purchased those manufacturing.
We have,
places, and it's US based.
It's all US based. I mean, that's the thing that we I think did. By the way, COVID was the worst tragedy in the history of time, and all these bad things. Really good for home furnishings, by the way. But one thing particular for us is, because we've always done the right thing as a brand. So I think that having a brand promise is so critical to everything that you do. And when I think of anything, when I invest in companies, when I join a board, I really think the brand promise is critical. Mm-hmm. And our brand promise is almost like a do better company from the beginning. So that means, do better customer service. We were 24/7, not again totally altruistic, because you know what? It's a high ticket item. And like that call that happens at 4 a.m. is worth someone being on the phone for. But do better customer service. Be American made. Don't have stuff that you import from China. COVID was such an amazing thing for us in the way that because we were US manufactured, because we were US supplied, because all our customer service was US, everything was US, it was so easy for us to navigate that, whereas every one of our competitors, Purple, Casper, Nectar, whatever, they're importing stuff from China. That's shipping rates that went up 10x in a year or two. That's basically a lack of availability for product, and we were able to, all of a sudden, Saatva, which was already doing really well, even at a growth stage, went kind of exponential growth.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, isn't it, how we all realised how the supply chain can grind to a halt at certain times.
Yeah.
So is that what, when you go on a board of something like Branch or one of these companies, is that what they're looking for, that insight that you've learned from those things, or are you coming across them? How does that relationship happen?
It's funny. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really, by the way, it's a great question. So at this stage in the company, right, I've been at this for like 13 years, and I think I have like general wisdom. But man, it's still fun to be in the weeds. This stuff keeps me young. So I love kind of working with brands, because at the end of the day, I feel like I'm always making sure that I'm on top of my game. At some point, maybe I won't be, but I think I'm always trying to innovate, and it's amazing to problem solve. I think at the end of the day, entrepreneurs are problem solvers, and so there's things that you can unlock, and I unlock. That's my favorite word in the world. I'm like, oh my God, that you can unlock a new stage of growth, guys. Like, why don't you do this? So providing that advisory feedback to brands that have kind of a similar structure than us, but aren't in my direct industry, has been kind of a joy, and it's been a lot of fun.
And one of those opportunities we have in business to unlock new growth is downturns in markets. And when others are struggling, there's opportunities to acquire companies, there's opportunities to go into new markets when other people aren't as bullish. And you were mentioning some of that now in the DTS market and consumer market, and within your area.
Yeah, so we're able to acquire manufacturing. We've actually been a market share gainer in a down world. Again, the brand promise of our company has always been to hand deliver. So one thing that's just unique about us is we created this white glove delivery. That's the core of our product in the mattress space. So everyone else, there are 155 companies that will deliver a bed on your doorstep, and they inflate. it's not a great product for a million reasons. I mean, you can't compress good product. It makes no sense. Like it'd be like a Fisher Price, like kind of like pop-up car. Like that's just, pop-up stuff is not good, people.
Here first.
And yeah. So I mean, like this, everything from the strength of the springs, you know. So we've always done it right. I mean, at the end of the, you know, it's interesting when you think about like. I think back in the day they called it like obsolescence or something. The American car manufacturers would actually purposefully make their cars worse because, you know, that way people would buy it again. We believe in the exact opposite. You know, I've been sleeping on my bed for 6 years. I swear to God, it feels brand new. And the thing is, because you do such a good job on product, everything else becomes easy. And we did a lot of hard work in the beginning to do the logistics, all of that. Again, we bought the logistics now in stores. So we become an omni-channel brand. So we have 25 stores now, on our way to hopefully 100. So we, and then not too much past 100 because then you become Calvin Klein or whatever start doing wholesale. And there's a sweet spot that I think brands like us kind of hit, and hopefully we're on that trajectory.
Is that kind of what you see the trajectory for direct to consumer now? That transition into having a more experiential experience by having these stores, almost Apple-esque. I hate to use
At
that
the end
term.
of the day, you know, 25% of people, 30% of people call it. By the way, when I started, it was 7% of the market bought online. Now it's about 24%. So massive shift over the last 13 years. You know, seeing the internet boom in front of my eyes has been very real, and I see it every single day based on my analytics. So that's true as true can be, but you're still leaving called 70+% of consumers that want to try, touch, feel the product. So the great thing about being a digitally native brand is you're able to basically use all the discipline of being digitally native, but you're also allowed to just kind of have the higher conversion that comes from launching a store, a physical experience. So you don't have to deal with the inventory, all the things. A brand that's natively brick and mortar, for example, has like legacy logistics. There's so many things that make it very tough. A brand that's digitally native, we don't have inventory in our stores, so we get to use the entire space, make this beautiful experience, convert customers at a higher rate. So everywhere we go, for example, we're launching one in Austin. Right now, my conversion rate in Austin is
Where is it going to be?
It's going to be the Domain.
I thought so.
Right across from Whole Foods.
Good. That'd be good.
Yeah. Trust me, it took a long time.
By banana, just down there on that. On the
right in the corner there. But anyway.
By Design Within Reach. That
right next to Design Within Reach. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so the whole point is we're taking a market that's now 30% of consumers to now 100%. So everything grows. Now I can spend more money on advertising. Now I can grow that market. Boom, 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 boom.
Mm-hmm. So what is we've started now online, and then we're going back to brick and mortar to some degree. And there's people like Purple out there with this like gimmicky looking purple mattress. So how do you see the consumer, this market changing, and how you stand apart and it just doesn't just become a wash?
At the end of the day, because I think we had a moat from day one, which is, you know, we have white glove delivery, and because of that I can have, you know, organic cotton. We're thinking of organic cotton too, but you know, higher density of steel. You know, it's just a different product, which allowed me, because of my delivery mechanism, that was really hard work in the beginning, to be honest. I mean, creating this logistics thing was a nightmare. But at the end of the day, it's allowed us to really deliver authentic products. So I can compete with Sleep Number with a nicer product than Sleep Number has, a better bed than Sleep Number has authentically. I can compete with Tempur-Pedic authentically. I can compete with basically anyone. Which Purple can't do. So they're a little limited, because when you ship something in a box, I mean, you know.
So you feel like the retail outlets are going to help you communicate this very unique message of US supply chain quality construction.
I think it's very clear. You guys hopefully will come and see our Domain space. You know, you get a glass of wine or a tea or whatever, and they're just beautiful spaces, 14-foot ceilings. I mean, it's just a very different space. But I think one thing that we've done that's very different from DTC brands, we've always been accessible luxury. So the value prop has never changed, which is you're getting a better deal with Saatva. It reminds me, so like this is going to age me at some point, but basically in 1990, Lexus came out with a Lexus LS 400. It was a amazing car. I was a child, And I remember it so vividly. And I was, again, a car fanatic, right? So focused, Mercedes, BMW. And then my dad took me to the Lexus dealership. I'm like, wait, so this is cheaper than those two, but honestly, 10 times better? That's what we're trying to achieve.
That's awesome. So what's next for you? You're going to keep acquiring these supply chain. You're going to keep rolling out stores. You're going to keep being on boards.
Yeah, so for me
you
personally, you know, getting more involved in direct-to-consumer companies, growing them, that's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing. So it's a lot of fun for me. I actually remember talking to my wife like literally 2 days ago, and I'm like, so I have a lot of opportunities here. Can you help me filter them? Because you can spend a lot of time in a day in 50 different directions. So I need some structure in my own life, and it's a personal thing. But you know, I'm also a maniac, and this stuff's a lot of fun. So it's hard not to be like, yes, yes, yes. You know, and again, as an entrepreneur, for the company, I think the company, you know, we're at 25 stores. I'm basically head of real estate operation. So it's a lot of fun choosing locations, growing the brand with locations, buying all of our manufacturing. We're becoming more vertically integrated. So that's a huge part of kind of the future growth and basically the private equity based plan. And then there are a couple sub brands we might launch as well that are kind of, you know, we have our Toyota, now we'll maybe launch a Lexus. So
will they be on the same site or will it be like a separate thing?
They're a separate thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Look, that's been really informal, but I want to, you know, open it up to the rest of the audience for Q&A. So is that okay with you?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so what I think I might do is, because like I said, the audio's going through here, I might pass this to somebody. You keep your one, and I'll bring this to people. So please raise your hands, anyone who's got questions.
So I have a funny mattress delivery story in your old building that I'm not going to tell now, but if you want to know it, find me and I'll tell you about it. So, and this is going to sound like a canned question, but it's not. It came to me when you used the words wisdom and weeds very close together. So I want to know the best piece of advice you've ever gotten and the worst piece you've ever given.
Oh my God, the best piece of advice I think I've ever gotten is life is long. The worst piece of advice is time flies when you're having fun. Time is slow when you're having fun.
Yeah. Who's next? Thanks.
I'm curious on your frequency and structure of the meetings with your executive team. What does that look like?
So I think our team overall, like board level, meets quarterly. I think that's a good cadence. I don't think that there should be more than that. At this point in the organization, to be totally honest, I think it's too infrequent. I think that they're like Branch, I think, as a company, I'm on the board of directors of Branch. I think that company does a great job of having internal meetings, basically, and as a director, I'm actually involved with those kind of internal management meetings as well, and that's monthly. So I think something like a cadence, management-wise, I think should be at least once a month, maybe every 2 weeks. To be totally honest, in our growth stage, it was once a week. I love that. If I could go back to once a week, that would be my favorite thing in the world, because that was also in a smaller world where like we were just able to go boom, 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 boom. I think once every 2 weeks is probably ideal. From a management structure, I think, and the board structure, I think quarterly is fine.
Chris at the back, another gentleman.
So maybe you can just repeat my question after I ask it.
Yep.
Instead of doing that whole thing. Okay, so you went from being like an SEO, SEM guy running AdWords campaigns, but I think of a mattress as this thing that has springs and fabric and other stuff in it. How did you know how to put springs and fabric together, and what is in a mattress? How did you know to make this thing?
Absolutely no idea. So I honestly, Ron, so when I was running around my team, and it's not just me, so I'm one of 3 core founders, a team of 5 founders, 2 of them are more investor founders. But at the end of the day, I joined forces with Ron, who had years and years, started a company called Jennifer Furniture. So this is kind of the story as well, which I didn't cover, but I thought I was actually pitching Ron to be a client who was at Jennifer to be part of my agency. And Ron comes to me, he's like, yeah, I don't really want to do Jennifer anymore. I'm actually probably going to be fired tomorrow. So I want to start this mattress thing. And I went home that night and I looked at the AdWords. I looked at basically the cost of AdWords. I looked at the competition. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like we can do something super cool. I talked to my other co-founder, Chris, who was running the agency with me. I'm like, dude, I think there's something great that can happen in mattresses. He's like, what are you talking about? Mattresses? I'm like, look at the data, dude. He's like, calls me back 20 minutes later. Dude, I love it. so we did it. And then the thing is, Chris and I came to them, we went right back and we're like, so we don't really want to be your, your client here. Or we don't want this client sort of vendor relationship here. We want to be co-founders. And that's kind of what started. So we became co-founders out of the gate, and I bet kind of a little bit of invested some resources of the agency into this. Again, I didn't realize that co-founder conversation that I had, which was super smart. My 87-year-old uncle, who was at probably like 75 at the time, told me to do that. He's like, come back and say you want to be a co-founder, which was the best thing I've ever heard in my life. And it changed my life.
Sorry. I had a question about the brand promise. Obviously, like a really well-crafted one when it aligns with a lot of timing aspects worked really well. What was the evolution of that for you? Like, where did you start? And we know where you ended, but what was that process like?
It's interesting. So the brand story has been kind of a nonstop battle. I think the core foundation when it comes to sort of the promise of the brand, right? The values. So that was relentless customer service. And I use the relentless. I mean, honestly, if anyone has an issue with the Saatva that's real, you'll get a new mattress. Don't put that on like the internet or whatever. But we don't negotiate with our customers. We give you new product. We want you to be happy. I mean, at the end of the day, 24/7 customer service, and the product, the detail in the product, right? Like organic cotton, making sure we're U.S. manufactured, so you know where your foams are actually coming from. They're as natural as they possibly can be. Our latex is the best latex. So having well-built product, again, customer service, these types of things were something that I think basically were kind of part of the DNA and the company's DNA out of the gate. Over time, as we launched new product, we were unsure whether or not we should continue under the Saatva name, which we didn't necessarily love, but it was working. I didn't love, but it became a thing. Or we should launch sub-brands. And so we're like, should we be a house of brands or a branded house? Eventually, it became a branded house and decided, so we did have separate websites. We had lumenleaf.com, we had zenhaven.com. They were separate websites. We thought that would be a more tactical way to approach the market. Eventually, we just all put it under one big brand umbrella. So that's a little different. But the product has never changed. The product promise has never changed.
But even within like a promise, say like customer service, like keeping it in the US, 24/7, there are different trade-offs you could have made. Did you just pick it?
100%. Yeah, we're willing to pay more. We're willing to do better. We will definitely never sacrifice in those things. And I think that's why, at the end of the day, the good guys win. It wasn't the Casper comes up and. No offense if anyone has a Casper, or whatever. These guys come up with worst product, the best mattress in the world. Yeah, right. No way. Eventually, like you're putting this thing in a little box, a piece of foam. It's the best mattress in the world. Okay, but at the end of the day, I think that if you do the right things on the product side, you're going to win in the long run. This has been the biggest tortoise and hare story in the history of time, at least in business under my watch, like that I've noticed. Just seeing how we've gone like this, and maybe like this sometimes, but we've never again faltered from our core sort of values. And I've seen a lot of companies just go like that, and it's been interesting.
That's great. We've got one over here.
And there's one down the front.
So this is 100% selfish question, but you mentioned your white glove delivery, so kind of segue to what you were just discussing, but your white glove being kind of a key component, and then you also said logistical nightmare, horrible in the beginning. What made you stick with that? Because you were new, you were developing, you weren't, like often people would run from something that shows up as a nightmare.
I think at the end of the day, tactics work, right? So we're like, okay, so actually it's a funny story. So I actually was in Texas. So I moved from New York to Texas. We had a factory in Elizabeth, New Jersey. We had a factory producing our bed in California. And we had another one in the South. Basically, not anywhere near Texas. So I'm moved to Austin. In no way is it feasible to ship a Saatva to me. So I'm actually sleeping on a futon in 2011, talking about the greatest mattress in the world that I was sleeping on in New Jersey only like 3 months, in New York only 6 months ago or whatever. And what we did is we tactically marketed, and we were really smart about that. So we focused AdWords only on those areas geographically, targeted by zip code. So we're like, okay, not only are we just going to target a digital marketing area, we're going to actually target on zip code to make sure that our performance is working as well as possible. That's how we were able to get past those things, because dropship again is in our space. I'm not saying this is every space, but for us, we just didn't feel like dropship was necessarily going to, at least at that time, produce the best product. So we stuck by the brand values and just, we're really tactical. The way we surmounted it was tactical. I think that also leads me to something else, which is, who the heck is buying a mattress online in 2011 or whatever? And we had to combat that. So we, basically were everyone who loved our product, we'd get the reviews, we did as much press as we possibly could, we did everything to validate it, and we also talked about the product in deep detail. I think a lot of people don't do that. I think that's a mistake. Because in this day and age where you can buy off Wayfair and the thing looks like it's in this backyard and it looks absolutely beautiful, but it's total trash, it's hard to distinguish better and not better. And we really, from day one, went detail from video, getting online reviews, whatever it was, to make sure that we were able to get the validators, explaining the details ourselves. Customers, believe it or not, are pretty smart, and they like, even if they don't even understand, the tensile strength of a spring or whatever, they want to hear that you care about it. So we did all those things from day one.
So my question to you is, you started a business from 0 up to 10 million, 20 million, 100 million, 500 million. What was the most difficult problem that you had to solve to do that, and what did you do to solve it?
I would say competition. 2014, Casper comes out, and then all of a sudden, I thought the world was going to fall apart. And the big thing is, not only did Casper come out, then in 2 years, 150 different companies come out. The names are Aunt Layla, like Lol, whatever, Nora, whatever, come up with a girl's name, and that's a mattress company. Emily, I'm sure, is a company. And so we basically, the world just is flooded by competition, and surviving that and thriving through that, I think, was the most difficult thing. But again, I think just that's where, a lot of times in the history of our company, having the right product, doing the right things has carried the way. We were able to say we're different. So in the moment, it was tough. Someone's approving my message. But in the short term, it was tough. In the long run, I think if you do the right things, it always works out. Again, not easier said than done, but it's worked out for us.
Okay. Cool. We've got some more questions. We've got I see 5 hands, so I'm going to start here.
Thank you.
I wonder if you have always been direct to consumer, or if you dabbled with other representatives or people reselling your product or putting it in different channels.
Yeah, actually, so we have. We put one of our products in Macy's. The problem for us has just always been the marketing stack. So it was really a question: do we want to go wholesale? And it's easy. It's easy to get wholesale, right? It's you just get placed. The problem is that we don't know where our customer is coming from. It kind of ruins our marketing stack a fair amount. And you can kind of see, all of a sudden it starts to get more and more out of control, right? And other purples everywhere. And our competition is doing a lot of wholesale. I think for our type of brand, doing owned and operated stores is the right move. There's no question. However, I'm not allergic to wholesale. That's why when we acquired this factory, and then they might be creating sub-brands, where we are creating sub-brands that are very wholesale friendly, but we're just not going to invest in the marketing stack in the same way.
That makes sense. Who's next?
I don't know.
So yeah, my question is kind of similar. You were online, now you're going to retail. Do you find it more profitable to be in retail, or what was this? You just wanted to have your own branded stores to push more brand identity, or?
At the end of the day, our conversion rates triple. So in a market where I have a store, so overall, say for example, I'm looking at the city of Dallas, for example. Overall, nationally, my conversion rate is pretty normal for a home furnishings brand. However, where I have a retail store, my conversion rate is 2.5 times. So not only am I doing better, not only am I doing all the sales in store, people are coming to the store, they might walk home and buy. We've just seen the lift overall is probably 30 to 40% more than the sales that we do in store.
In your DTC?
In our DTC.
So they come up to retail, touch and feel, and buy it online?
Yep, happens all the time.
I was curious, if you were starting a D2C brand today, or you're restarting with today's landscape online, how would you think about approaching the market? Would you, it sounds like you did a lot of SEM initially. Is that the same strategy you would pursue today?
Yeah, great question. I think basically every company has a different framework, and I think that a lot of times you'll see it, and this is actually something that like personally kind of actually annoys me when I go to like conferences, DTC conferences, because I think it's like everyone just tries to play this sort of, one thing fits all kind of scenario, and it's just absolutely not true. I think for higher average order value product, it's a different story. You're probably more of a considered purchase, so you're definitely more in the Google subset than you are in Facebook remarketing. Versus if you're I don't know, t-shirt brand or whatever, something sub $300, something sub $100. I mean, it's a different playbook. You're on TikTok, you can get more influencers. For me to be on TikTok successfully, I mean, what am I going to ship these mattresses out to all these TikTokers? It's like $2,000 a pop. Like, it's not cheap. Meanwhile, the guy like launching a toy, just like, here's $10. You can do it 1,000 times. It's 10 grand. 1,000 mattresses is like, what, $2 million or something? It's a different story. So I don't think there's a one size fits all sort of mechanism behind anything.
Makes sense. Thank you.
We'll try and get a couple more in, and then because we want to connect and drink some wine.
I just wanted to say I got a solid 8.5 hours on a Saatva mattress last night, so thank you very much.
More than I did.
and every night for that matter. But with being such a successful privately held company, you're just delivering year over year. How much pressure do you get to do publicly traded? And is that something that you guys really feel the pressure like, hey, we have to at some point? Or do you think that your business model is sustainable to keep that growth and keep the control in-house without going public?
So we're private equity backed, fortunately now. So we have to drive towards an exit. Essentially, I think the capital markets are going to basically dictate sort of how this all ends up, whether it's a strategic buyer for us or whether we go that public direction. But at this moment, it's not great to be a great privately held company. I think that if you look at the stock market, it's like really great if you're an AI or whatever, you're NVIDIA. But for companies like ours, the M&A world is still a little soft. So we are driving towards an exit at some point. But in the meantime, we're like guns blazes, doing everything we possibly can to grow.
I have a question. You mentioned you're taking advisory roles, doing other investments. What are, I guess, the top 3 things that, whether you're betting on a founder or looking at taking a advisory role in a company that you look for to want to be able to dedicate your time or efforts?
This sounds so cliche, but founder passion is absolutely critical. You can just sense it, you can feel it, and if someone just that's like the starter for me. Number 2 is like a market that, like a total addressable market that's large. I think that's huge, and then an opportunity for disruption within that market, and then also just like demonstration of an ability to execute. I think execution plus total addressable market plus founder passion, I think, and a lot of other things, but those are 3 things.
We're going to do one more, we're going to leave it there.
One more question.
One more.
If I can double dip, I'll
Jeff,
throw it
this
out.
could be the best one.
I saved the best for last.
Oh, good.
Thank you. How do you beat Amazon? Right? I mean, Amazon looks to me like they're dominating any place they kind of want to dominate. And yes, they're losing a little traction in certain spots, but how do you continue? Let me rephrase that. How do you continue to beat Amazon?
Okay, so in my opinion, this is how my worldview in retail. Amazon's like the Target. Like imagine you can just like shotgun in your brain and go anywhere you want. So you're like, okay, I want to get this chair. So, no offense, Chris, not that expensive or fancy. So you're like utility product. I want it now. Boom, you're going to Walmart. You're driving there. You're going to Amazon. You want something that's cool and hip and whatever. You're going to South Congress. Those are like the Etsy's of the world. Those are the certain type of like sites. We're like kind of the domain, a considered purchase, and a part of the domain that where people are coming in. People aren't buying Saatvas on Amazon. You know, it's a considered purchase. You're not going to spend $2,500. Like I go to Amazon, just click. I'm not getting, you know, a shirt that this is actually a generic shirt, but like I'm not getting like a cool shirt, you know. I'm not getting stuff I really like. It's not curated. It's not a curated thing. So Amazon, I think, is much more of a utility thing. Maybe every once in a while, but for the most part, I think it's a different world. It's separate. Amazon's not going to win high-end product.
Okay, you're the expert. I would disagree. I think Amazon's starting to move in that direction from what we can tell in our industry. And my sense is that what Amazon wants to do, Amazon does pretty well, right? If they care about it, they can do it. So that was where the question came from.
I think that's why we've done such a good job, I think, with brand identity and brand awareness. That's why we've invested in it so much. That's why we have retail stores. At the end, you know, someone is spending $2,500 on a mattress. It's an Amazon page. Are they really going to buy from Amazon and click versus us? Mm-hmm. We haven't been that concerned.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
Can we give him a hand? Thank you.